To finish the front, you need to attach the other half of the front to the front that you've already created. So you've got this piece, which is the full logo with the zippered pocket. You've attached the backing. Now you need to find piece number 4 and line it up with piece number 3, stacking those two edges on top of each other. So I'm going to go ahead and place it like this, and I line them up and put in some pins from end to end. If you've cut and serged properly, these pieces should be the same length. You're going to pin this entire edge, and once you've got it pinned, you're going to sew it from top to bottom. You want to make sure that you are just inside of that stitching line there. That was the line that attached those two pocket pieces together, the front of your pocket and piece number 3. So you want to sew just to the left of that to make sure that when you flip this right side out, you don't actually see that stitching line. So I'll finish pinning and then we'll start to sew. So line it up and make sure you're sewing just to the left of that stitching that you can already see. That was when you sewed the back of the pocket to the front. You want to sew just a little ways to the left of that so that that stitching, when we open this up, will not actually show on the outside. So line it up and start to go. And just continue straight, staying to the left of that original stitching. Remember, when you get to the zipper, you just want to make sure, the only thing you have to be careful of is that you're going to clear that middle edge. But you can see there's a lot of room here, so you just want to make sure you're just next to the old stitching. You still have lots of room. Your needle will not hit your zipper. So I've sewn from top to bottom, just that one straight edge. Now you can go ahead, lift your needle, lift your foot, pull it out, trim your threads. And when you open it up, you now have the full front of your bag sewn together. Your next step to finish the front will be to top stitch this center seam here. I'm going to take it over to the iron, press it first. When I'm pressing this seam, I want to press it first on the wrong side. I'm going to pick this up, flip it over. This is piece number 4. I want to pull my pieces apart as flat as I can, and I'm going to press this seam allowance towards piece number 4. So go ahead, give it a good press, getting it to lay as flat as you can, pulling outwards as you press, and then flipping it over. Now I'm looking at the right side. I'll give it a second press. Again, I want to pull this away. I don't want to see little foldovers here where it wasn't pulled apart. So make sure you pull out, out, out all the way, and then give it a second press. The last step in finishing the front is to do your decorative stitching to keep this seam that you've pressed flat. You want to do that because you want to reinforce that seam because it's right in the middle of the bag, so you want it to be strong. So sewing it twice will just make it stronger. The decorative stitch will fall on this side of the seam, so the left side of the seam. It helps to keep those seam allowances from moving around inside the bag. It keeps them flat against the bag itself. So once you've seen the demo on how to do the different styles of decorative stitching that are on your machine, test them all, decide which one you like, and then go ahead and get ready to sew. I have switched over to my kind of red thread, the same thread that I used to do the letter K. Usually students will choose to do a different color of thread for their decorative stitching so that it shows up more. You decide what you would like to do for yourself. Once you've decided, switch your thread, and when you line it up, you put your needle down, you put your foot down, and you line the foot up against that sewn edge. So you will be sewing on the left side, not on the right, and also not in the middle. You want to sew on the left so that you are catching the seam allowance underneath and keeping it flat. So here you go. You can reverse in a decorative stitch just like regular stitching. And the biggest thing to remember is that because you're using usually a different color and a fancy stitch style, it will be visible. So make sure that you keep the edge of your foot on that sewn edge all the way from top to bottom to keep it looking consistent and professional. Don't forget to reverse at the end. And now you have your complete finished front. So you can see how that decorative stitching not only looks nice, but it also helps to keep this seam allowance flat on the back so it doesn't flip around and move left, right, and center.